are Josie, Sarah Stock, Rich Medina, Mary McGann, Lynn Paul, Alicia Oliver, Lynn Paul, and Gabriel Whitehead. Lynn Paul, your books. We will begin with the pledge of allegiance. Are there any citizens that have chambers or citizens online that have this to be heard? Being done, we will begin the canvassing election. So you're welcome.
Thank you, Mary. So I'm the Grand County Head Lead Election Official, Gabriel Whitehead, for the auditor. And I'll start by going over a couple documents prepared here. Basically presenting the results. This is our main sort of results summary that is pulled from our electionware software. And so we'll just kind of, we'll just touch on the basics of this document. You can see there registered voters total being 6,066. That includes registrations tied with provisional ballots submitted and counted. Ballots cast 4,740. There's a row there that I couldn't figure out a way to filter out in this report, but it's that paper ballots cast, and there's a discrepancy there. 284, and that 284 is the amount of ballots that came from our voting machine cards. So voters who use one of the slips that go into the voting machine, and then they place that in the envelope and then into the drop box. For whatever reason, I couldn't, it's a little bit confusing, those two different numbers, and I kind of was trying to get rid of it, but that's the reason for that discrepancy there. Paper ballots refer to the regular paper ballots that everyone receives automatically in the mail envelope. There's also the express voting slips. But 4740 is the total figure. And so that 4740 out of 6,066 comes out to the voter turnout at 78.14%. If we want to just we can just scroll slowly through the results of each race. I don't know if I need to play by play it. Maybe I'll call out for those ordinances. So for Grand County Commission at Large, you can see we have 4,604 total votes cast for that race. 2,357 voted field, 2,247 was the candidate. For Commission District 4, out of 1,000, nice even 1,000 total votes cast in that race. That is 463 for McFarland, 537 for McGann. For Commission District 5, out of 1,002 total votes cast. That's a nod to our redistricting process, and even this population most of the three districts. 595 for McCurdy, 407 for Getz. Grand County Attorney, that was in that large race, 4,602 votes cast in that race. 1975 for Sloan, 2,627 for Stocks. Grand County Clerk Auditor, I received 3,417 votes. Grand County Sheriff, 4,516 total votes cast in that race, 2,041 going to Bruner, 2,475 going to Wiggins. And Captain Williams received 883 votes for the school district 1. Very awardable 669 for school district 5. And, so to be clear, I did have to, today, this board of canvassers will not be certifying the Moab Valley Fire District's, election. In statute, it is the duty of the board of canvassers to certify elections of local districts if they do not have their own governing body. And that, so my interpretation there, I did try to get a hold of the lieutenant governor's office today and it was unsuccessful. But my interpretation of that is pretty clearly that that board, will have to certify that the results of that election. And also, like, they'll have to do it at the next board meeting before we. But in that race, 4,114 votes cast, Bedwether received 1,201, Harrison 2,913. You know, there's the judicial exceptions, you can transfer that into the gas. So yeah, that was just a run through of the summary results, and then I just have something I prepared. By statute, the election official is required to present all information or the number of ballots counted with any relevant information, and then all ballots not counted and the description of why they were not counted. And so I'll go ahead and do that here. So there were 4,740 votes cast, votes counted. 151 of those votes were cast by provisional ballot. 3 of those votes cast were by ballots that had to have their signatures cured after election day. And so those were votes that still had outstanding, that still had a ballot envelope that we hadn't opened yet. Because it was lacking a signature, or the signature didn't match. I think in this case, of those 3, it was lacking a signature altogether. And so those warrants, those 3 were included in the unofficial results that were reported on election day night. But we did receive 3 cures by 5 p.m. yesterday, which is the deadline for curing. For curing for those ballots, 5 p.m. the day before. 33 ballots were received after election day, November 8th, by the U.S. Postal Service, and those ballots had a valid postmark on them, which in this case means they were postmarked by the 7th of November. Therefore, they were able to be counted. And so. That has some relation to some of these items in the next section, because all ballots not counted, which there were 37 in total. So I talked about those 3 ballots that were with that had their signatures cured after election day. We also had 11 ballots that were uncured. So they still needed curing after election day. We made efforts to reach out to those particular voters to have them come in and cure. And we either were not unable to reach them directly, or we successfully reached them and there was did get around them. And out of those 11, 6 of those had no signature whatsoever, and 5 had signatures that didn't match the voter registration database file. And so we challenged them, and they didn't succeed in challenge by the absence of that work. 2 ballots not counted had incomplete registration information on their provisional ballot envelope, and so basically when we receive a provisional ballot envelope, and when if we have indicated that they have, this is a little bit of a unique circumstance, they did provide proof of residency and proof of identity. However, when it came time to enter their vote, when it came time to scan them in with the receipt, and then the next step would be to count their ballot, it was found that their registration information was incomplete, and what I mean by that in particular is that there was either an unavailable or invalid last 4 digits of the social security number, or in the case of both of these, there wasn't a driver's license number provided. And it's unfortunate. In one of these cases, there was a last word that the social provided, which was invalid. So there wasn't a whole lot that we could do, and already after the survey for provisional ballots. And there wasn't a whole lot me and my staff could do about that one, which is unfortunate. The other one was more of an error by my office, in the sense that, the person did not provide either the last four digits of the agreement number or the driver's license number, and we were unable to heat of the moment on election day. We didn't catch that when that person submitted the provisional ballot envelope, and so it's an unfortunate error by my office. Thankfully, we only done. But ideally, in that moment, we would have said, "Hey, that's fine. We definitely need one of those." That was, yeah, that was just kind of full transparency on what transpired. One provisional ballot had insufficient or invalid proof of residency that was provided. So they were requested a cure on their provisional ballot because there was still proof of residency that was pending. They did respond and drop off something by Monday, which was the deadline. And upon review, and unfortunately it was later in the day, later in the workday. Upon review, I, as the election official, determined that it was insufficient for the specific instructions allowed that order to determine that with sort of reasonable assurance that it was down to residency. And unfortunately, because it was later in the day, I was unable to reach that order to be able to follow up again. Only one. I mean, every vote counts, but I'm glad that we're both ones. 14 provisional ballots were uncured or otherwise we received no response to cure them, and that was all 14 of those was proof of residency verification. For the ones that we allowed them to write about fill out a ballot on election day, or even starting in the second. And but you can fill out a ballot and then still you have until the cure date, which is the 14th, that is this past Monday, to follow up with my office to provide that before, in order for us to have that ballot. So there were 14 provisional ballots that we did not, we did not get a response. Either did successfully reach them and they did follow up with us, or we were able to set it all. 9 ballots were received via the United States Postal Service after election day with either with a late postmark, and this is kind of there were 5 that had a late, so they were postmarked on the 8th or the 9th, or so on and so forth. You can't count those ballots, unfortunately. Interestingly, and this will require some follow-up because it's not a trend that we would want to see continue, and thankfully it's relatively limited. But we received 4 ballots after the 8th that from the post office that actually had no postmark at all. And so again, I'm going to have to follow up with the postmaster on that, but I don't feel comfortable having no ballots if I'm not, if by law and you postmark that inside. It doesn't say postmark on the side of the door, not postmark. So those were not counted, and so that counts for the 37 ballots not counted. Are there any questions with this one? And then so there's some other numbers. As I said before, 6,066 total active registered voters after the registration of those provisional ballots. It's a nice number. You may be aware that there was a write-in field in the U.S. Senate race. There were 3 certified write-in candidates. And there was not a single vote for one of the three certified writing candidates in their account. I thought it was the writing, I thought there would be at least 4 or 5. There was actually,
Now,
what's that?
no, maybe now.
Oh, there were a few. Actually, interestingly enough, there was someone filled in a write-in for a candidate that I know was involved, I think in the primary races. So they were someone that was kind of in the mix, but they didn't end up doing the certified writing. So, you know, sort of that's a zero. 1,693 ballots, or 35.71% of the ballots were returned, that people returned by putting their ballot back in their mailbox. That's what they're grabbing and bring back to the post office for my office. And go treat. We received, we got 350 mail-in ballots were returned, undeliverable. And so there are a variety of reasons why that would happen. Some of them are just kind of head scratchers, but you know, so to say that they're that. But the person has received a vote by mail ballot before and successfully voted on, and all of a sudden, you know, doesn't want to be delivered. And I don't have deeper information about, you know, how many of those we were able to resolve. I would say, I don't know, did you say that most of those we were able to contact the voter and sort of, yeah. I guess,
Most of them have moved out. So, we don't know.
And so they were inactivated and they're most out, obviously, for the, Janice Smith, my chief deputy clerk, explained that of the 350 mail-in ballots returned undeliverable, that mostly pertained to people that I know about really different registrations were activated. 2,576 ballots were returned by hand to our drop box, so as opposed to people returning them in their mailbox. So, you know, people decided to come here and see us and grab a sticker at the window. I encourage that. I think it's fun. I think it's a fun part of this process. I'm thrilled about it. Yeah, and the sticker is a nice little, nugget. I'm actually going to look into potentially for the 24 presidential cycle, see about what the cost would be for a sticker that would be included in the final. So I think that would be beneficial.
Thing never goes away again, never goes away. Always get started.
And let's see, and then there were 279 in-person voters. So that was the number of folks that were actively that maybe not 100%, but mostly referred to folks who did receive a ballot in the mail, but decided that they would rather you know, come in and use the vote machine or receive a paper. We did have some extra paper ballots for things we voted to, you know, because some people really just wanted to, you know, have an old school ballot, go out right there in person, put it in an envelope, and do the whole thing right there. Which I'm happy to, again, I'm very happy to offer that option to folks. So, again, we already said 78.14% is the total turnout, and in parentheses there, you have total votes cast over total active registered voters. And then you can see the numbers there. 2020 saw 87.61% turnout. From 5,971 active registered voters. 2018 saw 84.5% turnout. 5,208 active registered voters. In 2016, that turnout was 91.3%, compared to 5,094 active registered voters.
I wonder why not. And then we can, because if you don't get it, yeah, it's just, there's going to have a lower percent, but a higher. Whereas I was so proud that Grant County is at 80%,
Yeah.
correct? I'm right about that law. I just still really sad. That's
So that's all I prepared today. Are there any other questions about the overall presentation?
I have questions, so we are certifying the school district.
Yes.
I don't think it's.
School board open?
Yeah. I don't know.
I looked at that and it's certified all results for the county. And, but yeah. Do you recall in the past what you might have done? I just would hate to, I would hate to not do it now and then have to call.
If you get certified twice, will that be a problem?
Yeah, I wonder if it would even hurt to throw the fire district in the motion and.
It doesn't specify.
If it's not valid, it's not valid, but if it is valid, then we got it out of the way. I think. Yeah, I've got a suggestion, put that in motion in there, because we do sort of have to declare elected, all of these.
I would like to thank Jana for all of her years of your help to everyone, your professionalism. I don't think it matters who comes into the office and talks to you, whatever side of the spectrum they are, but hope you treat everyone equally with respect. You're going to be very missed, and I'm happy for you to have your time off and being tired, but I also sad for the county and the people, citizens of this kind of community, because you have been stellar. Stellar. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Here's the suggested motion. I did update this to reflect the actual leader in this race, so I don't need to present this as an option between. It's not, that's definitely not the object or the intention of this meeting or this suggested motion. So I can make that very clear to the public meeting. But yeah. I don't think it's, consistent, Absolutely. I think I might have just put it in what is the valid or not.
Well, and congratulations to you, you made it through your first election.
Part of that, and looking forward to the national. I'll take them up.
You see the money for the house. Yeah, of all those years doing your job, do you have any year you felt was the most challenging or the most exciting as it was? Well, this election was challenging. Did a lot of last minute people that came in. So 7 a.m. had no great at all. I think that was the first time, although it moved very quickly, everything came together and that kind of job, so it moved really well. But Monday and Tuesday were so busy. Before when we had all the different polling places with bigger challenges, because that a lot of Russell Power, taking all the machines, they're all machines up. And then I would run between all the polls all day, so. That was fun as well, and I would have to wait to get all the cards from the polling places. So we do anything. I like the more simple stuff. Here, there's less chance to miss out. We're not San Juan County, and they're calling the power. We just have, the only other phone that we have is one of the other valid on. You know, it's evolved, and it's gonna continue to evolve. I think if we do that, and I think then, I mean, they, you know, and they, here each district and relate each district. Much more, it was a much longer drawn out process. It wasn't like one, these are the balls. It's like you had to wait through 5 districts to get the results. So we used to upload by precinct or by polling place. So you would have the first polling place and the second. Now it's not a lot better. Yeah. Yeah.
One more thing I should mention before a motion, is that we did, complete this morning at 10 a.m. the post-election audit. The ballot audit, which is the comparison of the ballot, the actual ballot images to the cast vote record. I would want to thank Mr. Dean, a member of this board of canvassers, for completing that aspect of the audit. Is that it? And everything lined up, no irregularities. And that was a batch of 50 ballots that were audited that were selected at random by the lieutenant governor's office from batch data that was supplied them. And then those 50 ballots were given to us 15 minutes before the scheduled audit. So at 9:45, we received in our inbox, so I actually just filed the audit. And then there was also a signature affidavit and voter registration audit summary that I completed. The signature audit did reveal any inconsistencies. The voter registration audit was interesting. We had, I believe that there were 5 in that batch of 50, that folks that actually didn't have their original registration documentation available to you in the database, but they were folks that had been registered in Grant County for many years, and their original registration documentation, it hadn't been grandfathered into the local system. So that was kind of interesting. I don't necessarily view it as an irregularity because there's been nothing to take that person off of the registration roll. They've been active voters for many years. But I am going to follow up with the lieutenant governor's office and sort of it looks like maybe we'll have a project in terms of doing so. Getting some documentation on those files.
I move to certify votes cast in the November 8th, 2022 general election submitted by the election officer and canvassed by the county board of canvassers. Sorry about that. To the certification of these results, the board of canvassers hereby declares elected the following individuals: Stephen Stock, Grand County Attorney; Gabriel Whitehead, Grand County Clerk Auditor; Aaron again, Grand County Commissioner, District 4; Mike McCurdy, Grand County Commissioner, District 5; Bill Winslow, Grand County Commissioner at Large; James C. Wiggins, Grand County Sheriff; Catherine Williams, Grand County School Board, District 1; E. Ray Wardell, Grand County School Board, District 5; Charlie Harrison, Moana Valley Fire Commission. This board hereby directs the election officers to transmit the certified report of these results to the office of the lieutenant governor and file with all other declarations of requirements as described in Utah State Code 20A-4-304. I agree. I decide. All right. Let's go. All in favor? I follow. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. I will, we appreciate your investment. 134. I know, so that it's